Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are thrilled to have in the studio with us tonight a true community leader, an icon, and someone who has done great service for our country, and that is Captain Tim Barelli, just retired as the captain of the Port of San Diego from the U.S. Coast Guard. Tim, how you doing?
It's great to be here, Drew. Thank you very much, and it's an honor to be speaking with you.
Well, listen, the honor is all ours. How long were you in the Coast Guard?
So I was in the Coast Guard 26 and a half years active duty, but that does not include the 4 years at the Coast Guard Academy. So I always say that 3 decades of wearing the uniform.
Right, exactly. And the Coast Guard is only been founded in 1790, so it's just started getting its chops and so forth. What made you get into the Coast Guard? A family, or just always wanted to be in the military?
Yeah, when I was in when I was growing up, I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and we would go play Army in the woods.
Who didn't, right?
Dress in camouflage. Loved going to the Army surplus stores with my grandfather, who is a World War II veteran. So it was just a great opportunity to, in watching movies when I was a kid, from the old, 12 O'Clock High movie to, Top Gun and everything in between. I just knew I wanted to serve and wear the uniform. So when I was in high school, I was applying to all the service academies, and during one of those service academy high school events, they had a booth for the Coast Guard Academy.
Nice.
So I threw my name in the hat, and I got a nomination to West Point, ended up going to the United States Coast Guard Academy and graduated in 96.
Congratulations. And also with West Point as well. Now, you say your grandfather was in World War II?
So my grandfather, he was a doctor, and he was on the backside of the big war, and he grew up in Kansas, and his mother immigrated from Sicily and just served in that capacity.
So did he serve in the European campaign or in the Pacific?
It was in the European.
Yeah. So my dad was a doctor, and he served in the Pacific campaign, and he was on Guadalcanal.
That's amazing.
Exactly. And anybody who knows anything about World War II and Guadalcanal knows how pivotal that battle was. Hickman, field there and so forth. And then in many ways, they can pretty much attribute that battle and the Midway as what turned around the war.
That is amazing. Well, for my grandfather, I think he was mostly, he was through medical school through the war, and then was in the occupational army, and then was involved as a doctor in the Nuremberg trials.
Oh my goodness!
So
did you get a chance to chat with him much about it?
You know what? He was very quiet about that kind of experience. But I remember at one point when we were children, I was in high school. He brought out these old tapes of he had actually a camera, like an old video camera that here he is, black and white footage, film strips of him on the ship over there. It was amazing. And I didn't even know what happened to him. He's now deceased, but I'm like, I need to ask my dad, what happened to all this footage? It's historical footage.
It's very important. Absolutely. We're chatting with Tim Barelli, recently retired captain of the port for the U.S. Coast Guard. And we've had your predecessors on the show, and they've just done terrific jobs, of course. And one of the things that we really like to tell our listeners, and when people think, the Coast Guard, they're out there, fooling around in the water and, watching people surf and, sorry, you're speeding. Not just that work. You guys go inland how many miles?
Well, so I had responsibility inland that include the Colorado River. So my responsibility as the captain of the port was from not only coast to 200 miles offshore from the maritime boundary line north to Dana Point, just north of Miramar, north of Pendleton, but I had the state of Arizona, southern Utah, southern Nevada. So that Colorado River, a federal waterway, included, the Lake Mead, Lake Havasu, Lake Powell. And so that is again, being responsible for the safety, security, and environmental protection of that body of water as well. So it was a fun assignment. 3 years flew by, operationally intense, and it was great.
So are there actually Coast Guard ships on those rivers or lakes or whatever?
No, we don't. What we do is we partner. It's all, the Coast Guard is, because we're such a small service.
Right.
I mean, and we always say, hey, we're smaller than the New York City Police Department. But it's all based on the collaboration, the partnership, the relationships that you're built and forged. It's like that all-in kind of collaborative effort for that all-out effort. And that's what we had on the inland waterways, and particularly in the Colorado River. So National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Reclamation, the county sheriffs, the fire departments, all working together to keep the waterways safe.
Right. So Tim, what would happen? I'm really, sort of fixated on this aspect of it, and then we'll get to obviously all the other 55 things that you folks had to be worried about, and what your duties were, certainly on the coast here in San Diego. But let's use Lake Mead as an example. Something happens. Someone's doing something goofy. Do you get the call? Does the sheriff department in Arizona or California get the call? How does that work?
So if it's let's say, for example, on let's say Lake Powell or Lake, we'll say Lake Mead, it'll be either the sheriffs or the National Park Service that will be the first responder. Right. And so a lot of times we won't hear about it until afterwards. Gotcha. But we have memorandums of understanding and agreements with these different entities to ensure that the Coast Guard interest and the waterway is working together and safe. So. Right.
What examples would there be for them to bring you in if something had happened?
I think it would have to be massive, large. But here's the thing. I mean, the key thing about search and rescue is the first responder, the people who are right there, on the scene, are the ones who can make a big difference really fast. And I'll give you an example. Like, we have Coast Guard, of course, stations throughout the entire United States. Right. But it's, for example, here in San Diego, the San Diego Lifeguards, Chief Gartland, the great man he is, and working together. They're usually the first ones out to, that are watching the beaches and responding. And in something like that, let's say if a swimmer who, is swimming and then not seen and goes underwater, lifeguard will be there first. But if for some reason, let's say if the person is not located, we're always moving fast and launching. We have, it's again, Coast Guard, our motto is Semper Paratus, always prepared, always ready. Right. So it's about, 24/7 responding quickly to that effort. And then it's a protracted search if it's required. Right. And so we've had many examples of where there's been like mass rescues of, potential, like even migrants or, of people smuggling, people in contraband and things coming into the coast and capsizing because of these vessels that are overloaded, unseaworthy, and that requires a mass, all-out effort, multi-agency, to conduct that search.
Absolutely. We are chatting with Captain retired Tim Barelli, a former captain of the Port of San Diego, running the Coast Guard. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things for San Diegans for more than 60 years. Tim, how long for the coast? You have responsibilities down into Mexico, or does it stop right at the border?
It stops right at the border for what I was responsible for. And
how far north does it go?
It goes all for the sector San Diego goes up to Dana Point. Okay. So but it's definitely it's a busy very busy area of responsibility, and that's where you mentioned in the introduction I retired after 26 years and 3 years in command here, which my change of command ended in July, and I got to tell you, it was just an incredible experience. The great people I got to work with at Sector San Diego, the teamwork, the courage displayed, physical, mental, spiritual courage on a daily basis by the men and women I got a chance to work with was truly an honor and a privilege. And so I'll stop.
And like you mentioned, it's a 7/24, 365 job. That's what it is. As simple as that. You talked about collaborations. With your inland waterways, mainly with sheriff's department or local police departments or whatever. I imagine on the coast with the harbor police departments, San Diego, probably all the way up to Dana Point. Correct?
That is correct. And I failed to mention, San Diego Harbor Police was just an incredible partner. Coast Guard could not conduct its missions as effectively and as great as it does without just the partnerships, both at the local level. We talk about, the San Diego lifeguards, the fire, the San Diego Harbor Police, but also, on the state level with, Cal Office of Emergency, Cal OES,
right,
and then on the federal side with all our partners. So it's pretty cool. You're kind of multi-agency lingual, So
it is interesting. I can talk about this for the next 7 hours and bore you to death, which I'm good at doing. Anybody else on? There's just so much to cover here. Again, we're chatting with the Captain Retired Tim Barelli, a former captain of the Port of San Diego. And of course, was 3 years of command in the Coast Guard in San Diego. Talk a little bit, about, what are, and then we'll take a break and then come back to it. 26 years been in the Coast Guard. Things have changed a lot, I'm sure, from how you lead and how you manage and so forth. With everything going on with cybersecurity, probably wasn't even a term or a big term a while ago, probably in your world. What has changed the most in your 26 years?
Oh wow, that's a great question. I mean, the Coast Guard changing with the times. I mean, the one thing that hasn't changed, sometimes it's easier asking, hey, what hasn't changed is the mission readiness focus of the service. So. And what also has not changed is this delegated initiative or trained initiative that's at the lowest level of the Coast Guard. So for example, yes, I was in command, but yet one thing that I've been very, fortunate is you try to cultivate instill a culture of people just acting and responding and in good faith. And so you take that level of, from the lowest member in the Coast Guard or the most junior member, not the lowest, the most junior member in the Coast Guard in the service can go out and effect a rescue, and so you have that high cover to act. And so what hasn't changed. Now, again, what has changed is everything, like from, when I entered the Coast Guard, it was green screen computers no internet, and writing memos and typing out stuff. I mean, it was just like, I should type it out on like this archaic old computer.
Yeah,
screen.
Commodore or something like that.
I don't even know what it was called.
Right.
But so that piece, and then what also has changed is just this mission set of we've transitioned from the Department of Transportation. That was when I entered the Coast Guard into the Department of Homeland Security, following, September 11th. So that focus on maritime security kind of was now, in par with the traditional Coast Guard missions of public safety. And so I think, that's all the technology that's changed. But one other thing I want to mention is that maritime operations are always dynamic, right? It's going to be on the water, you're exposed to the elements and so forth. Well, for example, like smuggling and the character of maritime operations has changed. So new technologies, new types of threats, that has been the biggest, I think, change, and that's why the service has to continually change. But I'm out of this Coast Guard now, so I can, it's like,
No. Listen, you can. Well, I'm not asking for double secret probation type of stuff and all that business. That sounds great, Tim. We come back. We'll chat more about something that's near and dear to your heart, leadership, and something that's even more and dear than leadership is fatherhood and raising that wonderful family of you of soon-to-be America Cup sailors. And we'll tease the audience a little bit with that one when we return with Tim Barelli, just retired as captain of the Port of San Diego and the Coast Guard. He was a command for 3 years. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, doing great things to San Diegans for more than 60 years. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you're listening to Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show here on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union and these very cool Mission Fed studios. Mission Fed's been bringing great things to San Diegans for more than 60 years. Honored to have in the studio with us just retired Captain Tim Barelli, former captain of the port. He was in the command of the Coast Guard for the last 3 years. Again, we could probably spend 3 hours just talking about some of the cool experiences you had, but that'll be for another interview. So as you can hear by my voice, you'll be back on again sooner than later. Seriously, I think it's great information for our listeners to hear. But talk a little bit about leadership and just how important that is, certainly in the role you had, but just in you in general. And that's part of your core. Yeah,
thanks. Leadership is critical to being able to carry out the mission of the Coast Guard. But it's about interacting and the personal engagement that you have as a leader with your junior members, with your colleagues, with the senior members, and it's about trying to inspire and bring out the best into a thriving team. And leadership is something, from my time at the Coast Guard Academy, or really, all your life, right? You're developing to be leaders, how you fit into a family, how you can take charge and take action and be, and to help inspire folks to, high school sports teams, being able to do that, putting yourself in the roles where, you're a little bit uncomfortable, but with every discomfort, there's growth. And then going to the Coast Guard Academy and learning about leadership and so forth. But my take on leadership is that once you think you have it figured out, you probably don't. In other words, it's a lifelong experience. It's a lifelong education. And there's situational leadership, there's others, but it's about how you interact and feel and having that common objective. And so, and I bring that up because it's kind of like, I even studied leadership at Georgetown University, and I got a master's in leadership through the business school there at Georgetown. Right. And, it's an academic look at it. And it's like you're looking at these great leaders over history, and you wonder if these same leaders could be great leaders in the times, in other times. And, that's a whole debatable point. We could talk over a scotch sometime.
More than one, if I can add over here. And if our listeners have a nice 100-year-old scotch in there, they can join us. The venerable Captain Tim Barelli as well.
But the one thing I would just want to say, sorry for interrupting, but leadership is not about the leader, though. It's about the people.
That's right.
That's where you have to put that focus off of the individual. And that's what I try to do as the commanding officer at Sector San Diego. It's like developing a culture that's not about me, but it's about the people.
Right.
And encouraging and highlighting what the great work that these people are doing. And I always say, it's about the courage and the physical, spiritual, mental, physical courage that these people are doing, and highlighting that. And then just trying to be a leader where I can be an advocate, a coach, a support, and be their biggest cheerleader, and try to break down obstacles so they can get their job done.
Yeah, absolutely. We can expand on that. Matter of fact, I am going to have you come back in sooner than later for an interview and continue that conversation on leadership. But something I know, you and I have known each other for a little while here, that you never fail when we chat to talk about your family, and your wonderful kids and your bride and so forth. Talk about how important fatherhood is to you.
Yeah, fatherhood is extremely important, and I think my my Catholic faith is very important to me, and so my wife Allie, who has endured all our moving around in the Coast Guard and service. I mean, she's the one who has shouldered a lot of the responsibility with me. As I'm focused on my Coast Guard operational duties. She's raising. We have 3 young girls and now 2 teenagers, and so again, how I can be set the example for the person that to be the father, the supporting dad, and somebody that I can. They can look up to.
So, your kids are sailors.
Yes.
Did it have anything to do with the fact that you were on the water?
Well, coincidentally, here I'm an aviator. I flew helicopters for 2.5 decades, Coast Guard rescue helicopters. And so, I learned to sail at the Coast Guard Academy. I'm originally from the Midwest. I never sailed, did anything like that. Just learned to sail at the Coast Guard Academy. Right. And then after that, it was just one of those... when we came to San Diego, San Diego Yacht Club's been a big part of our life, and we had a opportunity to learn they had an opportunity to learn sailing, and it's a bug that stuck, and they have now they're competitive sailors, and I'm very supportive, and I feel like what I've been doing is schlepping around all their sailing gear. Throughout Southern California to clinics and regattas, and it's something that they're passionate about, and we're excited about just supporting if that's what they want to continue to do in terms of their extracurricular activity.
Well, like you've said, excuse me, to me before, that it teaches them responsibility. It teaches them collaboration. Hey, they're the ones who had to rig up the sailboat. You're not helping them do that. If you don't rig it out well, you're going to be calling the Coast Guard to have a sea tow in or something to that effect. And of course, we hope that doesn't happen. So, what's next in it? We're chatting again with Tim Barelli, retired captain of the Port of San Diego, in command of the Coast Guard here in San Diego for 3 years. What's next?
Well, we are, so since my change of command, I've moved out of the command quarters there at the lighthouse. We moved into a great little place in nearby. And, so I've been looking for, or I should say, I've been enjoying the time with family.
To decompress?
I've decompressed. I'm just enjoying life. And I'm being selective. I've gone through a lot of interviews. I met with a lot of, from the corporate to the nonprofit to and everything in between, and to even some local government entities. But to me, it's about looking for the right culture and fit. And so I'm looking to hopefully just leverage my experience and skills, and national security leadership, strategy development. I have a master's from National War College, where we focus on international policy and national security strategy, and looking at government relations. So I spent 3.5 years on Capitol Hill. I realize how important that is as well. But anywhere that I could help leverage my operational national security leadership, and operational experience as a maritime practitioner. To the private sector. And so more to follow. Maybe next time I'm on your show, there's a few things I can't quite talk about right now, but are exciting. super excited about being, anywhere that I could, again, looking to add value to some great causes. And so I'm really excited about what the future holds.
No, that sounds great. And there will be a next show. And because I still want to get to some of the experiences of, what you did as a Coast Guard, command. I think, again, we could have a whole week long of shows and never run out of things to talk about. And then about maybe where you are moving forward in this aspect of it. But Tim, wanted to absolutely thank you for your service, 26 years, and there'll be even more. No doubt it's going to be benefiting some sector, whether it's a nonprofit sector, whether it's government sector, private, whatever the case may be. It's just in your DNA to do good things in the community, and wishing you nothing but great success. And plan on getting a text from me in about 5 seconds, even before this interview is even cold, for you to come back on.
Hey, that sounds great. And Drew, we met 3.5 years ago.
We did,
and it's truly an honor to be talking with you, and I have tremendous respect for your program, and looking forward to coming back, buddy.
Well, we look forward to it. We've been chatting with, again, Captain Retired Tim Barelli, former captain of the Port of San Diego, on command of the Coast Guard for 3 years. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and you've been listening to Drew Schlosberg, Spotlight on the Community Show on Cloudcast Media, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing great things to San Diego for more than 60 years.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.